Cameron Beaubier. You look down that screen that you're looking at right now, see how uphill that is. It makes it a little harder sometimes to get these bikes off the line. The good news is you can see there, Josh Herrin has Cameron Beaubier directly in front of him. So Cam gets good starts. Herrin knows that. You learn that as you go. Herrin's got to get right onto the back of the 6, right from the lights going out.
20 laps scheduled for Steel Commander Superbike race number 2. Lights are off and we're away. And it looked like a clean start this time from the front row. As Cameron Beaubier leads them down into turn number 2. Is anybody going to try to make a bid as Herrin tries to go up the inside? No, it's going to be Cameron Peterson who slots himself into second place. And Bobby Fong there in 4th.
Yep, SDK follows right in behind the 50 of Bobby Fong. So right now, you know that Cam Peterson's got pace. Herrin's not going to be worrying too much right now. Cam Peterson's right where he wants to be. He wants to latch onto the back of the 6, put some pressure on him, but more importantly, not let him get away. So that halfway through this race, you heard Cam Peterson say he feels like he's got some really good race pace at the end. So if they can kind of not let this BMW run away from them early, then there might be a chance there late in the race for them to do something with him.
As you look at the margin of victory and the amount of laps we had yesterday, it was just about 0.3 of a second, Jason, per lap. That was going on with Cameron Beaubier over the rest of the field.
Yeah, and you can see here, Beaubier makes a small mistake at the top of the corkscrew in the sense that he was just a little bit wide as they started coming down the hill, and just a tiny bit. So right now, when you're on brand new tires, you kind of want to make hay while the sun is shining, literally here at Laguna Seca. As you can see, these guys are all trying their best to put the fastest laps they can down. STK has made his way through on that 50. As you see Baz going underneath the second Tyler's bike of JD Beach. Baz moves over to defend that position. But Sean Dillon Kelly goes through on Bobby Fong. You saw Gagne trying to do the exact same thing. Herrin now makes a big pay on Cam Peterson. So this is Herrin's plan as well. He does not want to let Beaubier get away. And you see somebody's down there in the background. Can't tell exactly who that is, but it's going to be one of our front guys because you can see the gap. But it is 96 of Brandon Poss. And we have not seen him do that hardly at all this year. So walking a little bit gingerly.
Division Wheel M4 Star Suzuki rider down after a really good qualifying here. But now you can see Josh Herrin really pushing hard in the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati Panigale V4R. Initially, when he made the pass on Cameron Peterson, there was about half that gap. So right now, Josh Herrin is on an absolute tear to close the gap to Cameron Beaubier. Beaubier has no idea what's going on behind him.
Well, he'll know. You know, he's going to see it because yesterday, as SDK now makes a great pass on Cam Peterson up into the corkscrew. So now we got BMW first and third. And you got to remember, yesterday, SDK, even though he jumped the start, he got a bad start on top of it. He was 7th or 6th down into turn 2. His race was basically a lonely one of trying to come back up through people. And he had some pace, though. So now SDK on that 40 jumps himself into third. But Cam Beaubier is going to know that he's not getting away. Let's see what the time is. 23.7. I believe yesterday was around 23.9 was the opening lap. So you can see Herrin's done a much better job, as has SDK, as has Cam Peterson, of not letting the number 6 of Cameron Beaubier get away so quickly. So when you start to put it together, Beaubier is going to come through on the next lap. See +0 on his board again and +0 on his board again, maybe, for the next 2 or 3 laps. That will definitely change the way this race starts off differently than it did yesterday.
Fastest lap yesterday at 23.410 for Cameron Beaubier out front on the back of a 1.1 second margin of victory on a lap that he slowed down. Oh, by the way, betting is now available for Moto America fans. Go to nxtbets.com/playma, nxtbets.com/playma. For more information, visit motoamerica.com.
Greg, you can just see the importance that it was for Herrin to get by Cam Peterson early. Both Cam Peterson and SDK were...
Are you ready to dive into the thrilling world of roller sports? Welcome.
Able to get through, and you can see Peterson's just dropped back ever so slightly. So when you start to see what Herrin's doing, he had a plan today, as did the rest of them, not to let this guy get away. Hannah.
For Cameron Beaubier, when I talked to him this morning, the tire decision was still up in the air after trying that R8 little harder compound tire there, as Josh Herrin's trying to get it on Beaubier.
Possibly put some distance between himself and the 6.
The thing I like about Herrin is he takes shots, and he took a shot down into a turn 11, and you could see that he wanted to take another shot into turn 2. There was just no way he was going to get that bike slowed down. The danger part of that is that he also allowed SDK to get through. Now, he was able to get right back past, which is going to be to his benefit here. I think SDK's got some good speed, though, as well. You can see he's just going to dive down to the apex. He knew he couldn't make it, and he just lets the bike run out a little bit. Does a really nice job of squaring up turn 2. Puts himself back to the inside of SDK going into 3. But here it is again. This time he's got the apex speed controlled a lot easier that time for Herrin. And he will lead this lap coming across the line. And now we've got a fight, Greg. 4 guys, 3 different brands up in the front. And they've been able to keep the number 6 at bay. And now even control the pace that number 6 is going to be able to roll. Now, just a tick off of them in 5th, Bobby Fong. You see him back there. He usually comes good towards the end of these races. And I like the fact that we see the number 1 of Gagne. Gagne's just got to get through today, and then we know he's getting a procedure done during this break that we're going to have so that he can come back and fight hard for these last 3 races.
Talk about the number 1 plate and his right wrist issues and his hand falling asleep. So he's looking forward to getting that handled. But out front, Josh Herrin with a nice pass. Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati. And that Tytler Cycles BMW of Cameron Beaubier. And just behind him, EasyHealthPlans.com, Top Pro Racing, Sean Dillon Kelly out of Florida, trying to hold on to that gap. And then Cameron Peterson on the Attack Performance Progressive Yamaha. Anna?
You know, Greg, it's interesting you say Sean Dillon Kelly is out of Florida because the entire rest of this top 5, 6 here is all from California. So this is their home track, home field advantage, if you will. For Sean Dillon Kelly, he's also a rookie on the BMW, so he has no data at this track on this motorcycle either. But he did tell me they got off to the best start they've had all season, the best Friday. And it's definitely given him some confidence and helped him keep the momentum rolling.
Cam Peterson had a thought there, didn't he?
He certainly did,
had
yeah.
a thought. You can see it cost him some time, and he's now fallen back into the clutches just a little bit of Bobby Fong, who comes across that lap. Bobby Fong does it at 24.3. He was the fastest of the 6 riders that we have at the front. Cam P runs a little bit wide again in turn 2. Jake Gagne also 24.2, so he was actually the quickest in the top 6. So we've got a real fight at the front here. That little mistake that Cam made by trying to go up underneath SDK and not quite committing enough to that pass is what has opened up that gap between 3rd and 4th. So they're going to have to fight again to try to get themselves back up there.
What a job the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati team has done to improve the motorcycle from Saturday to Sunday. And when I talked to Josh Herrin's crew chief, we talked about the changes made, and he just said it's just a bunch of little things. It's electronics, it's chassis, it's the whole deal.
He's got a problem.
Yeah, it looks like Cameron Peterson's starting to fade backwards as Bobby Fong and his teammate get around him. So the 45 of Cameron Peterson has got something on board going on right now.
Greg, I'll tell you something. You know, we heard Cam talk about arm pump at the Ridge at the last round. And when he went into turn 11 just now, it looked like it took everything to head to get that bike slowed down. So one of 2 things. I think it might be a little bit early for arm pump. So it's either he's having a little bit of a braking issue or, in fact, that right wrist or that right forearm has pumped up, and he's just suffering a little bit from that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But you can see now, just with that little bit of an error, that gap has just let these 3 get away. So it's going to be hard work now for Bobby Fong and Gagne to try to close this gap back down to these top 3.
Boy, so impressed with Sean Dillon Kelly and the ride he's having right now as the Steel Commander Superbike rookie.
The other thing I'm looking at is lap times. When you start to look at the lap times, they're almost a half a second a lap slower, Greg, than their best. Normally, we would see a 2 to 3/10 gap, and I know 2/10 doesn't seem like a much that they're off, but it's just kind of showing how Herrin right now is controlling the pace of this race. He is controlling the pace because he's A, very, very difficult to pass, and B, he's just quick enough to where Cam can't get up alongside of him anywhere to try to make that pass anyways. So a pass into the break right now for Cam Beaubier would have to come from a long way back.
Yeah, but also, Jason, we talk about these riders riding around each other and understanding their tendencies. If you're Cameron Beaubier, you understand that if you're going to take a shot at Josh Herrin, he's immediately going to fire back on you. He's not a rider that wants to ride in second place. And so if you're Cameron Beaubier and you're thinking, listen, I know I don't have the pace to go out and get another 5-second gap on him, maybe it's just the smart thing to do right now just to hang back and then put pressure on Herrin to see if he cracks. The problem is is that when Josh Herrin is in this situation, no matter what class he's in, it's a rare occasion where we've ever seen him make a mistake. It's going to allow the riders back on through. But it's so close right now. The one who's learned the most definitely is Sean Dylan Kelly.
I was just going to say the same thing. The best thing that can happen, you have two Superbike champions directly in front of you, and if you're the number 40, Sean Dylan Kelly, he's loving this right now, watching these two go at it. I also believe that this will set a little bit of calmness in Cam Beaubier. He's not going to be in a big rush because he knows that Herrin will fire right back. And so I think that when you look at what is happening here and the dynamics of what's going on, as we are hearing that Cam Peterson does, in fact, have an issue. He's dropped all the way back to 9th place, Greg, as you can see him coming down the front straightaway. And I don't know if he's, I can't tell what that is. Maybe there's an adjuster on the left-hand side of the bike and it's not working, or maybe it's brake fade, not really sure. But Beaubier here is going to apply pressure and try to pressure Herrin into making a mistake. But he's also going to have a little bit of calmness, knowing that that he can follow Herrin and make a plan for later on.
It's also nice to see the respect out of these two riders. I mean, Cameron Beaubier able to ride that close to Josh Herrin because he understands what kind of rider he is and doesn't expect Herrin to ever make a mistake. This is where Sean Dylan Kelly is starting to lose just a little bit. Like, it's just a couple of little places on the racetrack. Driving onto the front straightaway is one of them. You can see the gap, and then SDK is able to close it back up under the brakes. And we can't talk enough about the resurgence of Sean Dylan Kelly's confidence. Getting hooked up with his crew chief, getting on a superbike, getting very little testing, and keeping, the positivity of the team and understanding the data and getting to work. And I mentioned at the top of the show as heartbreak for the 45 into the pits for the Attack Performance Progressive Yamaha team on such a good weekend in front of so many friends and family. Cam Peterson.
That's such a bummer right there, especially, again, this championship's just wide open right now between so many riders. So, it's a hard thing to see. So when you look at what's going on for SDK, Greg, you're talking about that top pro team. They've done such a good job, but they set the bar so high so early. SDK came right out of Atlanta and qualified second. He eventually would end up getting on the podium at Barber. He put in such a good couple of races, few races at the start of the season. Then he had a couple struggles. He struggled a little bit at Brainerd. He struggles a little bit at the Ridge. But now they've come back to Laguna Seca, regrouped, and you can see what he's done. Bobby Fong here, too, as we see a big crash. This is going to be down, looks like turn 6. That's Bryce Prince. I believe it's Bryce Prince. I know it's Deion Campbell. Sorry. Deion Campbell
out of 13th place.
On a BPR. Bryce Prince Racing R1. And we've enjoyed having Deion Campbell back in the paddock this year. And he's been doing really good at Stock 1000 and getting better each round. So glad to see he's up and okay. Back to the front here.
So Cameron Beaubier just going to work, learning where that Ducati is different from the BMW.
It's really easy to do that down in turn 6. There's a big dip there. Sometimes you can actually lose a little bit of ground clearance and just pick up that bike and send you off. That bike didn't do any flipping, so that's good. Bobby Fong, fastest lap. That last lap amongst your 4 leaders, 24-1. So he gained a couple of tenths back. So Bobby Fong right now is doing everything he can. And man, it is really nice to see Jake Gagne still in the picture.
It definitely is, yeah.
2.5 seconds back is the number 1 of Jake Gagne. And Greg, the fact that, like I said earlier, he's 1 point out of this championship, and we have not seen him really do much in the last 3 rounds. And he is still right in this thing.
We're talking about the number 1 who's back in 5th place, who sits just 1 point back from Josh Herrin in his championship, Jason. When we were at Brainerd in the Ridge, he said it's much more physically demanding for what's going on with his right hand than here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. There's so many left corners that he said it's actually not as bad as he thought it would be. He's not 100%, obviously. We know that he's going to have a procedure on Tuesday, but for Jake Gagne, this is about the best scenario. When I talked to the team at the beginning of the weekend, they said if we can walk away with 5th place and 6th place finishes, we feel like we can still be in this championship by the time we get to New Jersey in late September.
Good run from Loris Baz as well. He has struggled here this weekend. You made comment yesterday that right out on Friday mornings, we've seen Loris pretty much up to speed right away, and he struggled here at Laguna on Friday morning. And they've just been a little bit of a step behind. And it looks like Baz is a little bit quicker today than he has been. He's about 4.9 seconds off the leader. He's only 2.1 seconds behind Gagne. Then we're going to go a little bit further back. We're going to find Xavi Flores. Of course, we saw Brandon Posh, his teammate, tip off early in this race. Chavi fighting the kind of the lonely battle now on that Suzuki. He's got JD Beach just behind him, and JD running back there in 8th.
Chavi Flores still filling in for the injured Richie Escalante on the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team. I have not gotten any word as to the possibility of Richie Escalante returning to competition, but Chavi Flores has done an outstanding job of filling in for Escalante. Back up front we go to Josh Herrin, and the gap remains the same, about a tenth of a second. Sean Dylan Kelly now with a much better drive, but this is the danger guy right now. Wrench Motorcycles, Bobby Fong. He had the lead in this championship when it started, and Bobby Fong, Jason, just goes 1:23.960, his fastest lap of the race. And he claws back about half a second or more on the riders in front of him.
And the guy that's going to know that is SDK, because if you look at SDK's board, it was probably at +2 at one point. Now it's going to almost get down to +1 because Fong is moving forward. What do you know, Hannah?
Well, after the crash yesterday, the bike took a big one, and this morning an electronic sensor on the throttle was acting up, so they didn't get to try what they had planned, but Bobby doesn't have the front end feel that he was looking for. They went back to the same chassis as yesterday, so going into the race, they don't really know what to expect at all.
Yeah, and really, Hannah, in talking to Robbie Peterson about that exact topic, it's not only this weekend, Jason. They've been struggling with Bobby and his front end feel for the last couple of races, so they're looking for that solution, and they need every single lap, including in practice. But this morning with Fog and the situation, they didn't get it. But whatever's going on with Bobby Fong, he's starting to really figure it out. The question is, if Bobby gets to this lead group, which we don't have a doubt that he can do it, does he have enough tire underneath him to fight? It's one thing to go fast, Jay. It's another thing to have a motorcycle to actually be able to pass, as these three have just been follow the leader for the last several laps.
Well, they better start to think about something, because he does have pace as he goes 24.2 to the leader's 24.5. It's another 3/10 that Bobby Fong has taken out of this group. Now, one thing I will note is that the last time they went into turn 11, I saw STK have a little bit of a peak, almost like a little bit of a test to see if he thinks he can maybe make it through on Cameron Beaubier as they went down into turn 11. So we're going to keep an eye on that 40, because like I said, he knows that there's somebody coming up from behind right now, and if STK feels like he's got any pace at all, he's going to want to start to get past the two in front of him and try to make something happen here.
And SDK's on that harder compound Dunlop front tire. That might prove dividends. Also want to just update you, I got word that Richie Escalante is set to return to Steel Commander Superbike on the Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team as SDK goes up the inside. Is it going to stick? Wow. Nice pass from Sean Dylan Kelly. Richie Escalante set to return at Mid-Ohio, Jason.
Yeah, like I said, when you see on your pit board that somebody's actually catching you, it will definitely put the hurry up in you. And if he thinks that this pace at 24.5 is a little bit too slow, he wants to try to get forward. He wants this podium. And don't be surprised if you see STK do that exact same thing, because look who has actually joined the party now. Just with that little bit of interaction at the top of the corkscrew, it's allowed Bobby Fong. In the while here, Bobby Fong's board is going to continue to go up. He is seeing that he's pulling away. It's this great pass as STK slots right in between, only a bike width apart between Herrin and Beaubier. Sean Dylan Kelly finds that pass. Bobby Fong's board is going to continue to tell him that he's pulling away from Gagne. He's got no threat, no stress, anything from behind, and he can race forward right now, can the 50. So let's see if SDK tries this exact same pass. I think he's going to have a go, Greg, up at the corkscrew if he gets a good run out of 6. Also note, look how tight Herrin comes out at this turn. Last lap, he did the same thing and gets a little bit of run this time, but I'm concerned about this run out of here.
So Sean Dylan Kelly on the EasyHealthPlans.com Top Pro Racing BMW feels like he's got some pace in him, and maybe he wants to take over this lead and try to make a break from the rest of the riders, as he knows Bobby Fong's on the way.
Herrin did a good job that time of controlling his speed out of 6, and SDK just had no chance of doing anything with him there. So, and I think that the strength, you'll see the strengths of the bikes in front. Bobby does a really nice job of kind of holding on all the way down the hill. He closes up on these guys, but from about here to about turn 6, Bobby struggles to stay up with him. You can see he closes right up onto the back. the Yamaha doesn't look like it quite has the acceleration out of turn 11, and he's able to maneuver all the way down from the top of the corkscrew. He can close back in on this group.
Cameron Bovier taking a little wider line down to the bottom of turn number 2. Now Sean Dylan Kelly looking for an opportunity. Where does he think he could pass Josh Herrin if he wants to? We know these riders are so close, and Herrin's so good on the brakes as they peel it off into turn number 5. Now we're going to start our run up the hill towards the corkscrew. This is the first bit of it. It's a rider lap traffic right around turn number 6. There he is. He got through that corner. Up the hill they go.
Yeah, last couple laps, Herrin's done a good job of getting up out of that turn 6 area, so it's going to make it pretty hard for SDK. Now this is where Bobby Fong shines. You can see how much he's closed up onto the back of them as he goes up into the corkscrew. He's tremendous up at the top of the hill, and then he's good all the way down to the bottom. He's going to want to spring in a surprise attack on Bobby. See, when Cameron's in front there, if he can't make a pass on SDK, if he follows him in there, it makes him susceptible to a Bobby Fong pass down into turn 11. L5, P3. See, on the Tyler cycles, it doesn't say who's behind you, but Cameron had a shot at SDK as they came up over the top of turn 1 just to have the door slammed on it.
So a better run for Bobby Fong. The gap not as big as it was last time by. But for Bobby Fong, he's going to have to do it all on the brakes.
Well, the Yamaha produces lap times a little bit different. It rolls through the corners a little bit better. A lot of times he's able to open up entries a little bit more and let the bike go. Now you can see SDK is just starting to lose a little bit of grip maybe. Cam Bovey has a shot. He's going to take a shot at him down here into turn number 5. Makes that pass. So that might be the first little thing that we've seen from SDK where he doesn't quite have the edge grip to get off the turn. And he wasn't able to get off of turn 4 with Herrin. Bovier saw that, made a quick pass. Now it's going to be his turn to come back and take a shot at Herrin again.
Down the corkscrew they go, and now Cameron Bovier with some urgency. Doesn't want to let that gap get any larger. He's got a shot at winning again, and here comes Bobby Fong. He's going to go try up the inside. No, he doesn't.
Not quite close enough there. I don't think there's too much urgency. We got 5 to go. And the pace right now is at a high 24, 24.7, 24.8. Ooh! I still feel like Cam's got some tire underneath him.
Dude, Sean Dylan Kelly just lost the front or hit a big bump in the middle of turn number 11 and lost some time. Good, skill set to control that bike and not go down.
Yeah, Herrin, do you see how tight he is? He almost didn't have his body in the position that I felt like he wanted it to get in there into turn 2. So I think that Herrin right now, Greg, he's holding on. I really do. I think he's just trying to do everything he can to block these guys. That last lap by a 24.2, so they dropped almost half second. Those 24.7s and 24.8s concerned me just now when I saw them. And, again, Herrin's going in extremely tight, just trying to keep them behind. He's trying to use the power of the Ducati to drive out of these corners, and then he's just going into each one of these corners extremely tight. So Cam's still able to roll through the middle of these corners and do something. As you can see, they're now starting to pull away just a little bit from SDK.
It's a big ask, though, for Herrin to be able to pull this off for another 3.5 laps. These defensive lines.
He can do it, though. I've seen him do this stuff.
It's a big ask, though.
It's a matter of, with Josh, he's got so much bike handling skills and so much control over what he's doing. This is kind of his plan. You heard him say, I want to get on the back of Cam early, and I want to try to do something where I don't let him get away. And he's controlling this. The reason why Bovier isn't able to pull out on turn 11 there and try to make a pass is because he knows Herrin goes in there so deep. But watch when they get down here into turn 2. You'll see Herrin, he just kind of blocks this pass. That there's no way you're going to be able to go by him. You can see he runs it straight down to the inside curving. And if he controls the apex speed at the beginning of turn 2, makes it real hard for people to go by.
So Sean Dylan Kelly was right in the mix. That softer compound Dunlop that he's running might just be that 0.5 of a second that he's missing in some of this lap as these two continue that gap that was created about 2.5 laps ago. Bobby Fong still trying as hard as he can, but man.
But that might be just something that you said earlier. He had to come from a long way back. And how much tire might he have when he gets there? And again, they produce their speed a little bit different. The bikes in front of Bobby produce their speed a little bit different than what Bobby does. So Bovier's close this time as they come up into the corkscrew.
Herring going to take that defensive line once again. Tighter down into the blind corkscrew. Down to the 5.5 story drop. Flick it back left and go down 11 stories.
STK is revived again. You know, he's like, he can see that what's going on with the pace. And the second that Beaubier jumps on Herring, STK is going to be looking for that same opening as Cam's got a little bit of a run. But again, you can tell he gets back into the back of Herring real early because he knows how well Josh goes in there. It's going to be a big commitment for him to just let off the lever and try to get up alongside Herring like Herring did to him earlier.
Over the crest of turn number 1, down into 2. Beaubier trying to look up the inside, but Herring feels it. He feels it, lets the lever off. Beaubier trying to square it up to try to get a drive. Not sure turn 3 is the spot to do it.
Tight again into 3. So, like, what Herring's doing right now, for those of you watching at home, is very, very difficult to do. He's probably fighting a little bit of rear grip, and on top of fighting rear grip, he knows he's got a guy behind who's on a very fast motorcycle also, and he's got to do everything he can to just continue to close off the entries, and that's what he did there. He's run wide here a little bit, Greg.
Oh!
Yeah, he's run wide. That's why he's cut it back across. He knew he was out wide, and he was just able to just keep turning the bike and close off what Cam was trying to do there.
Yeah, because Beaubier was all set in his mind to drive up that hill, and then saw Herring with not the same speed. Yep. And that created this couple bike length gap.
And now he's got to try to do it for 1.5 more laps. And it's literally like doing push-ups every time because you're just braking as absolute late as you can. You're basically sacrificing all your corner speed in order to just try to square up a corner and then use what the power of the Ducati is giving him on the exits.
What a race we've seen from these top 4. Josh Herring, though, has been controlling the pace and dictating what everybody else is doing. Here comes the white flag, so it's out, 1 lap to go. And now for Cameron Beaubier. When does he attack? If he has room. Herring has put on such a masterful performance. Look how tight Herring is. There is absolutely no room to pass him up the inside. What a move into turn 2 by Josh Herring.
See, he goes tight into here. Now, what Herring's got to do is control the apex speed of 4. After he gets through turn 4, which is coming up now, he's got to control this. It's got to be picture perfect, and he's going to move over to the left. And he's going to make it very, very difficult for Cam. You can see him over to the left. That's what he's got to do. And then brake as deep as he can. He really has to do this for about 1 more corner. If he can do the same thing by the time they get down to turn 10, I don't think that they can get by him going into 11. Very impressive what he's done here.
Herring talks pre-race about his experience here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. It's paying off into the corkscrew. He's going to go to the left and back to the right. Beaubier trying to go around the outside, maybe make a move to square it off and try to get a run on him down the hill. But look how hard Herring is on the gas. All the while, SDK is there in case this ends up in tears between the top 2. But Herring gets a really good drive down the hill. Boy, the opportunities to pass are running out. Beaubier's got to get a good run on him. Herring with another good drive to the final corner of the racetrack. Here they go into turn 11. As tight as you like it, SDK makes a move for second place, but now foils the plans of Cameron Beaubier. And here comes Josh Herring in a master class of racing at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. What a win for him and his Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati team.
JD Beach is got by Xavi Flores. This is the battle for 7th. As you see Xavi now trying to go back up underneath, he makes that pass. See if he can get him on the run to the line.
Vision Wheel up for Star Suzuki, Xavi Flores, Tyler Cycles, BMW, and Flores will get 7th place. With Gagne holding on to 5th. That's so important in the championship.
Honestly, that's probably one of the most impressive races I've ever seen. I mean, Greg, you could argue that the fastest guy didn't win that race, you know, but the smartest guy in this case, Herring, knew what he had underneath him. He had a plan, and he just did a remarkable job. That was very, very impressive.
Josh Herring was leading this championship by 1 single point, and he does not care. He is out for race wins, and here it is, Jay, the last one.
How about SDK taking a shot? Bobby's just sitting there waiting to pick up the pieces. But, yeah, I mean, and it's great to see the 40 take a shot. Beaubier's going to get second. You know, Josh Herring knows what a threat Cameron Beaubier is in this championship. And then the 5 points he lost to Cam yesterday, he made him right back up today. And that's what this title fight's going to look like all the way down as we get to these next 3 rounds that I can hardly wait to get to.
What a performance from Josh Herring. I mean, Cameron Beaubier, it was like Herrin was in Beaubier's mind going, oh, I know you're going to try it here, so I'll block you here. I know you're going to try it there, I'll block you there. As Herrin heads off to grab the Stars and Stripes. Here's a look at the race pace. 1:23.798 on lap number 2, but Herrin controlling it in that low to mid 24 range.
I mean, the lap times, Greg, were all over the place. You know, they were 24.7, 24.8 with about 6 to go. Then all of a sudden he dropped them back into 24.2, and then they ultimately ended up at 24.6 there at the end.
Can't wait to hear what Herrin has to say. We'll find out after this.
Continuing here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, you watch our race winner here in Steel Commander Superbike, Josh Herrin, with the American flag making his way towards the podium to celebrate. Let's take a look at that final lap, Roger.
Yeah, and Josh just got aggressive early, but you can see going into this last lap here, Ken Beaubier is trying to find a spot where he can,
Peterson, the guy to beat. He's coming off back-to-back victories. And there's one guy also that we haven't talked about is Michael Gilbert, the 55. He's going to start, middle of that second row. Here's a guy, coming off of back-to-back podium finishes, a second and a third place the last couple of rounds between the Ridge as well as New Jersey. Really hadn't had any testing time, but he gets that one test day in at Jersey. Seems like they found something, and they got things going in the right direction for Gibby.
definitely, even last weekend, being on the podium, the race before that, last year he was on the podium here. So it just has to give him some confidence when you go to a track that you did well at the year before. It just, whenever you go into it, just gives you that good feeling that you know the track well.
Second place behind Andrew Lee here last year. We're at Barber Motorsports Park. When the light turns out, it's time to go. No more red, and a great launch by the Alta
Not a
Suzuki.
good start by Travis Wyman.
No, but look at the 45. If you were wanting to get it in front of him in the front, is that?
Great start by Corey Alexander.
Yes.
Did exactly what he had to do.
Yeah, Corey
Moved all
Alexander.
the way into second.
Look for that Kawasaki. I was trying to figure out if it was Gilbert or if it was Mason. It was Alexander. You can see the different body types between Mesa and Alexander. One's in the 5-foot range, the other one in the 6-foot range.
Looks like Mace's trying to go up the inside of Gilbert into 5. Didn't make it.
First lap of 13, and it has literally been chasing the times of Cam Peterson so far in Stock 1000 practice and qualifying this week at Barber Motorsports Park. Some cool ups and downs to this track. It's about a little over 2.25 miles long. It circulates in a clockwise direction, 17 turns, but really not many straightaways, not many flat parts in this course. There's a lot of ups and downs. You say this is a pivotal turn here.
Yeah, this one here is